Okay, so project 2, this is the setup that I sent you. And just to kind of show how this could work in terms of formulas. So if you pick an appliance, I'm going to use a pencil sharpener because I know nobody will use that. And let's say it uses 10 watts. The watts you will get from your packet on the table that has all the wattages. How many hours a week do I use this? Let's say 2, right? I use a lot of pencils. Um, so how many kilowatt hours would that be per week? Well, if you think about it, how did we go when we did this by hand? Well, we had to first, we're in Excel, so you're going to start with an equal sign. We had to first go from watts to kilowatts. So we started with watts, and then that next fraction was 1 kilowatt over 1,000 watts. So we're going to divide that by 1,000 to change it to kilowatts. And because we then want kilowatt hours, we're going to multiply by the hours a week. Okay, and actually, shoot, I want that to be a cell reference. So my watts divided by 1,000 times my hours per week. So when I hit enter, it's going to tell me how many kilowatt hours I use per week. Now, how many kilowatt hours per year? Well, there are 52 weeks in a year. So if I take the kilowatt hours I used in a week and I multiply by 52, that'll tell me how many kilowatt hours I use in a year. Well, once I have kilowatt hours, remember CO2 is simply taking my kilowatt hours and multiplying by 1.37 pounds of CO2. Boom. And cost per year, I think the cost is kilowatts, I don't know, times 10 cents, I think. Oops, times 0.10. Something like that, right? That the cost is on your project sheet, so make sure you do read that. Now, the nice thing about using cell references, if the next thing that I use is, I don't know, let's say my lamp that uses 35 watts, and I use that for 8 hours a week. No, now when I go to this kilowatt hours, you see the green box in the corner. If you just double click on that, it's going to auto populate. And you can see when I click on that, you can see up here the formula B4 divided by 1,000 times C4. It automatically does cell references. So I'm going to double click on each one of those green squares in the corner and it auto populates. So you can do that for all of your formulas, right? Just double click on that and it will autofill. For these down here, it's the same thing. You're going to use the same formulas, but now we're using the standby. So you're going to use the vampire energy problems in your book. So you can use some of the same appliances. The key is you want to use big appliances, right? Pencil sharpener for 10 watts is not going to do anything good. You want to use, your oven, your dryer, things that use a lot of watts. Because once you have this first page completed, you're going to highlight it all, right? Click drag. I control C to copy. Now you can see how I got the moving box. I'm going to go down here. You see this plus sign. I'm going to add a second sheet and then I'm going to control V, right? Copy and paste. So the key to this is that then you're going to change things and you're say, okay, because your goal is to reduce your carbon footprint. So instead of using my lamp for 8 hours a week, right, daylight savings time, I only need to use it 3 hours a week. When I change that to a 3 and hit enter, notice how all my other numbers change. So the cell references are going to allow that. And you're going to want to highlight that. So highlight, right? Dump the yellow, because on that second sheet, you're highlighting the changes that you made in your formula so that when I grade your spreadsheet, I can see what changes you made to reduce your carbon footprint and to make sure that your formula is adjusted accordingly. So you always want to use cell references whenever possible. All right, see if that helps you out. If you have more questions, feel free to shoot me an email.